Hello, everyone. Welcome to the B2B SaaS Podcast. I'm your host, Upendra Verma, and today we have Samir with us. Samir here is a co founder and CEO of a company called Utilize. Hey, Samir, welcome to the show.
Hi, Upendra. Glad to be here.
All right, Samir. So let's try to understand what your company does and why customers pay you money.
All right. So Utilize is a tool for building customized apps for deskless teams. And you can build these apps without any coding, and you can come up with your own customized app in just minutes. And we are focused on deskless teams. So what that means is if you have like a team on the ground doing some sort of blue collar jobs, right? Like manufacturing, warehousing, field teams, or let's say they're delivering something. So all these teams would need apps to update data on a daily basis, more like productivity apps, simple team collaboration apps. And our tool provides a way to build these apps in a drag and drop way, right from your existing data sources like spreadsheets. And we make money on a subscription basis. So our customers pay monthly. We have a free tier and a paid tier.
Got it. Right. So what sort of apps are these? Are these web apps? Are these mobile apps? What sort of apps are we talking about?
So these are web-based apps. These are web apps. So that means there's a way to build this app and share it by a link
Mhm.
on a tool. So we're not into native apps, any sort of Android, iOS apps, because most of these use cases are internal.
Mhm.
So it doesn't really make sense to have it downloaded from an app store. Rather they can just build this web app and share it by a link.
Got it. So let me help me understand, right? Who are your primary target customers? Who are using this product?
So our customer base is kind of uh, mapped to what a product does. So we are targeting companies that have deskless teams. And like I said, I gave you some examples, right? Like manufacturing
So
or
can you talk about the
warehousing.
industries they belong to? If you have any existing customers, maybe just you can pick one and explain, what sort of apps they build
Sure.
with your product.
Sure. Again, since it's a horizontal tool, since it's a
Mhm.
no-code tool,
Yeah,
there we have multiple use cases in it. Probably I'll pick one or two and tell you how it works.
sure.
So let's say you have a factory, right? You run a manufacturing business. Need not be e-commerce. Let's say you're just a simple manufacturer and you have a factory. And at some point in your business, you would want to collect data from your factory teams, from your warehouse teams, from your inventory teams, any sort of data, right? Order data, inventory data, or just your employee information. When are they checking in, checking out? Any sort of data, you would want to collect it from the ground. And for this, you need apps, right? So our tool provides a way to build that app uh, without any coding. So they can basically link their spreadsheets, which is limited to the desk force, the people who are working on desks. And they can link those spreadsheets and create simple web-based apps, which are mobile friendly for these teams. So what I gave you is like a manufacturing use case. Similarly, the use case could be anything. It could be a field team on the ground. It could be a delivery team. It could be a warehouse team. And to answer your previous question, so we are targeting businesses like these, and we're targeting people who sit at desks in such businesses, businesses that have a deskless team. And we are targeting businesses that are small. We're not into enterprise sales at this moment. So we are, ours is a low ticket business. So most of our clients currently have less than 50 employees in their deskless teams.
Mhm.
So yeah,
So
and
sure. Let's
sorry.
let's try to understand this a bit, right? So
Sure.
as of today, right? So how many paying customers do you have on your platform?
We have about 10, 10 paying customers.
10. And sure. And what's your approximate revenue that you did last month?
So we have 25 businesses using it. Out of them, around 10 are paying.
Mhm.
And our revenue at this moment is about $500 MRR. That's how we earn monthly.
Okay.
And yeah, uh, again, like I said, most of these are small tickets. So
Yeah,
our,
got it.
our ticket size is usually around $50.
Right. So I just want to understand, right? Why is the ticket size so low? Aren't you pricing it along the axis of number of users using the product? Why is it just $50? What does it take to sort of increase that number to, let's say, $500?
To be honest, even we don't know why it's so low. It started off out of, I mean, the basis is to uh, do something for small businesses.
Mhm.
So it started out of a need to create value proposition for small business. So that's why we wanted to keep the ticket sizes low
Mhm.
at the beginning, at least. But then we wanted to also figure out how much value we're adding, and I think we are in that process of understanding our proposition. And for us to take it to $500, one way for us to do it is to target mid-sized businesses, because right now our businesses are really small, right? They're just moving away from spreadsheets. That's how
Yeah.
small they are.
Yeah.
So we can also target slightly bigger companies. That's something that we're trying right now.
Mhm.
But at the core, we're still understanding our product. So
You're
I don't
still
think so. We'll
pricing
really
your
price
product
it.
along the lines of users and data, right? I see you have like a limit on number of rows and number of users, right? So there's a potential to
That's right.
expand that account if they sort of start using your app more, or more teams in a company start using the built app. That is possible, right?
That's right. That's right. So right now it's on users and data, but since we have a better understanding of the use cases, we're trying to make the pricing even more simpler just on users.
Sure.
But our revenue scales with the number of users that are there in a company.
Sure. So let's go back, right? Like, I want to understand how you got these, first, I think you have around 10 customers, 10 paying customers. Since the number is so low, you
Right.
must exactly know how you got them, right? How you ended up, converting them to a customer. So I want to understand the 0 to 1 journey of yours, right? So talk about that first customer. When was that, and how did you just help me understand that story of how you ended up converting them?
So our first customer is actually not someone who has a diskless team, because that's not how we started the product. We started the product for all sorts of internal apps. And our first customer, again, it's a small business. We literally walked into their store, their factory, understood what they're doing, and that's how
What sort
we
of a factory
converted them.
is this?
So this is a factory that makes apparel. They work into apparel manufacturing. Uh, they're more like a B2B kind of a business. They manufacture at scale, and they needed some sort of app to track their production line, their inventory. But we didn't convert them. As in, we converted and then they immediately churned out.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, if talking about the 0 to 1 journey, I think we're still in that process.
Sure, sure.
I
You are
think these
still, but
early
you've got 10 customers, right? So I want to understand. For example, just pick that first customer that you somehow managed to convert, right? So
yeah.
when you ended up talking to them, right? So do they even understand that? Do they even realize the necessity for such a product of yours, right? It looks obviously a bit innovative, right? So if I'm a B2B company, right? If I'm running an apparel store or something, I might want to sort
Mhm.
of pick a company which has already built off the shelf solutions which I can directly use, versus me
That's
asking one of my employees to sort of build an app customized for me, right? That's not something that I might look for. So
that's right.
how did they react when you say, hey, we've got this for you, right? So just help me understand that story there.
So our first customer was someone who had an intent to build it on his own, because he was already using some legacy tools, some
Okay.
other no-code log. We're not the first no-code tool that is out there.
Mhm.
So there are quite a lot of existing no-code tools. Even like 2 years back, AppSheet is one of them, and that's what he was using.
Mhm.
AppSheet is a Google's product to build apps. So yeah, there I think for us it was pretty straightforward for him to understand it. But then later on, we came across a lot more customers, because all our initial customers are from India.
Mhm.
And most of these customers did not understand what's happening here, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Like you said, they just wanted a simple software, or they just didn't need software. And one thing that we realized is instead of making these customers aware of how it works, how important customer software is, how no code can help them, all these are new insights, right?
Mhm.
And not everyone might have an intuition about them. So we started targeting customers who already understood it.
Mhm.
So that's when we realized we should be a little more global. We realized we should go reach out to customers who are already using other no code tools. And currently we're in that process of trying to acquire customers who already use existing no code
Yeah, we'll
tools.
get to your
Yeah,
future strategy in a while. So I just want to understand about this 10 customers first, right? So
sure,
so
sure,
yeah,
sure.
when you
Yeah.
talk about these 10 customers, right? So what are the, like, how did you end up sort of meeting them in the first place? What acquisition channels did you use strictly from that first
So
touch
our
point perspective?
Yeah, to be honest, our primary acquisition channels are pretty straightforward, like mostly outbound.
Okay.
Sending them emails, reaching out to them on LinkedIn, stuff like that.
So
Or through
can we
referral.
try to quantify that? I know, I mean, it's obviously going to be stuff like that, but what exactly did work for you, right? Because I'll tell you why I'm asking this question, right? I mean,
Right,
industries
right.
in
Yeah.
India who really don't have too much of a digital presence, right? Reaching them through cold email is not really going to work as of today, right? So how did you manage to sort of reach them in the first place? So just you've got 10. I know you really know where you got them from, right? So what was that biggest growth channel that worked for you, even for those 10 customers? Was it cold email? Was it LinkedIn messaging? Was it direct sales? Whatever. What was that?
So the customers that stuck with us, because we saw customers coming and going out since it was a product that has been evolving for the past 2 years. The customers who are still using our product, they mostly came through referrals,
Okay.
like someone suggesting the tool to them, or something on those lines. And they're not people who we reached out and convinced that, hey, this is a product that will work for you. Right. So, and when I say that, those channels are usually through email or through LinkedIn,
Mhm.
which are
But that
direct
those
channels.
didn't really work for you, right? So at least to get these 10
Those didn't
customers.
really work so far,
Mhm. Yeah, obviously,
because
obviously, we're
right
talking
now,
about the journey till this point. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So far it didn't work.
S-
But now we
So
will
when
have
you
to
say
revisit.
referrals, right? So I mean, it's got to originate somewhere, right? So because the customer base is so low, I mean, you must know where who
So
referred whom,
referral
right?
is usually
Mhm.
someone who tried the product,
Okay.
who was on the tool, and they suggested it to someone. Though these people did not convert, they told it to people who had a better value out of this.
Mhm.
Uh, so did that answer your question?
Yeah, it did. It did. But what I'm trying to understand is, was there anything that you did consciously to sort of drive
Okay.
this, referral sort of behavior?
No, no, nothing in the
Okay.
product.
Mhm.
So there
No,
is,
even
if
in
you're
terms of
asking
marketing
about,
or in terms of, getting your existing customers to sort of, hey, go and spread the word.
right.
We're gonna like, did you do something like that, or was it
So
just organic?
there were a few referral strategies that we wanted to incorporate into the product.
Mhm.
But that didn't make sense because ours is an internal use case.
Sure.
Let's say we had like an external use case for these apps, then saying that it's powered by Utilize if it's a free app,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
it's a free tier, that makes sense. So we didn't really do anything that is embedded into the product.
Mhm.
But we usually ask, like whenever we talk to a customer, especially in the initial days, or whenever there's a new experiment, right? Even now we have experiment, new product experiment that's running. But what I was saying is, like whenever we reach out to a customer, we ask them if they have other customers in mind who can
Mhm.
use this,
Sure.
some friends of them, or so yeah, that's the only way. Again, like I
Got
said,
it.
it's usually word of mouth.
Mhm. Got it. All right. Let's move forward, right? I want to understand where you're gonna go from now onwards, obviously, right? So my first question here is, right? So you've got a product, right, that could solve n number of use cases, right? And
Right.
as you mentioned, it's a horizontal platform. You could target anybody or everybody in the world, and they might, sort of get that benefit.
Which is bad thing. Yeah.
Exactly. That's my question, right? So now, how exactly are you gonna go forward, right? So what's your strategy here? What's your thinking here? I mean, so just walk me through that thought process of yours.
So one thing that we understood is if we have to build channels that will work for a long term, basically sustainable channels, we need to have some focus uh, on the use cases that we're targeting.
Right.
In fact, that is how we started making the product, or we started developing a vision around deskless workforce.
Mhm.
So that itself gives us some clarity around the use cases. And now within these use cases, we're not targeting all the use cases. We're trying to limit ourselves to some 3 to 4 use cases.
Okay.
And for each use case, we're creating apps or app
Uh-huh.
templates related to that use case, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And we're trying to be industry specific in each use case. To give you an example,
Yeah.
if we are looking at SEO as a potential channel, right, and want to experiment there.
Mhm.
And what we did is, instead of writing generic content, we picked like one use case, let's say field servicing use case,
Mhm.
and we understood different industries, at least the top industries in that use case, and we're writing content around those industries, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
About the need for customized software, about whatever we're doing.
Right.
So I think we realized that being use case specific in these channels is the only way to go about it.
Mhm.
Uh, even on our app, even in the product, it makes sense for us to create things that are more use case specific. That is the only way we can. So yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. So that makes sense. So you're focusing on few use cases going forward so that you could sort of, nail down a particular segment, right? That's your plan going forward.
Yeah, that's our plan. But that's one way to look at things, right? Where we break down our market into different use cases and go after each use
Yeah.
case. But sometimes we can enter into the market not through use cases but through existing communities. For example, today our product is a tool to build apps on top of spreadsheets, more specifically Google Sheets.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So Google Sheets users there's a certain community of users, right?
Mhm.
Similarly, there are other tools like, let's say, Shopify is an existing community, and there are Shopify users. There's a community that we can go market ourselves in.
Yeah.
So we're making those tweaks or improvements in the product so that we'll be relevant to these communities. So
that was my original question, right? So I mean, you still given me 3 or 4 potential ways that you could take going forward, right? So now, which one are you doubling down on? Because you can't do all of those things, right? So you can't be a horizontal platform for Shopify customers at the same time. You can't sell it to a field sales team, right? So you got to focus on something, right? So which way
so
is it
right
gonna
now,
be?
so right now, there are two experiments that we are doubling down on. One is SEO, that is use case specific, that is industry specific. So we're building a small team, a content team, so that we can produce content for these industries. And that's one big experiment that we're doing. The second experiment is uh, working on a new data source. So there are, like I said, uh, Google Sheets is a current data source. So adding a new data source, a new integration into our tool can help us market the product in some existing company. So the thing is, we haven't really decided what data source it is. Like, we have a few ideas in mind, but right now we're not in a position to tell you exactly what data source it is. In fact, we have a good hunch on one data source, but I don't know if there's the right time for me to say it.
Sure. So your plan is to sort of experiment with these things and then figure out what works best for you and double down that. Is that what you're sort of thinking?
Yeah. So to give you a gist, we're writing SEO content and we're betting on that as a growth channel. And we're also building, like right now, it's building apps on spreadsheets. Similarly, we're picking a different data source to build apps so that we can start targeting a product in that community that uses that data source. I'm not giving you that
Sure.
data source
That's
name
totally okay. I mean, you've got to run
uh,
your experiments before you say
in a
anything.
very
That
conscious
yeah,
way.
that make
Wish I
so
can, but maybe if you're publishing it at a later point, I can give
sure.
you those
It's okay.
details.
It's okay. We can come back to that later. So my question is, in the first case, right, when you're trying to build use case specific, apps or whatever that is, isn't it like a new SaaS application that you're building for a particular use case using your own platform? Isn't it just that?
Can you repeat it?
So my question
What do
is,
you
for
mean?
example, if you are picking a use case, for example, right, and you're trying to build, I'm not sure if you're building just templates, if you're trying to sort of tailor this product for them, you might
Right.
you might just end up building a new software for them for their use case, right? And you will end up selling that particular software, right? So
Oh,
in
yeah,
that case,
that's excellent question.
yeah, in that case,
Yeah.
you're not really selling your platform anymore. Essentially, you've built a new SaaS application or new software, essentially, and you're selling
Yeah.
them to use case, right? Essentially, you've got a bunch of softwares selling to different use cases, and your platform, the whole consumer of your platform is yourself, your technical team, who's using your own platform to build those applications and then end up selling, right? Is that how it's gonna turn out when you do this use case
So
specific thing?
so we are still being very use case specific. Let's say field service, right? So field
Mhm.
service is a use case, and there are a lot of field service software that are already existing, which I think you're terming as SaaS software, right?
Yeah.
So now, someone today, what people are doing is, if you have like a field service use case or a manufacturing use case, I'll go to that field service software or the manufacturing software, subscribe and start using it.
Yes.
But the limitation there is customizing that software is not easy.
Mhm.
Right?
Got
In most software, it's almost impossible, right? And that's what our tool does, where we're like, you don't really need like a fully blown out software, which is very tough to customize. What you need is like just a simple app
Yeah.
where there is a very simple way for your team to stay automated
Got it.
and and customize like you need.
Absolutely
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah. All right. All right, Samir. So let's wrap this up, right? I want to get your backstory, right? So when did you start the company?
So we started this 3 years back, actually, 2019. But In 2022 is when we actually came up with this diskless workforce.
Mhm.
If you asked us when did we register our current company,
No,
I would
when
say that is this year.
when did you get your first customer?
We got a first customer in 2020,
2020. Got it. And
early
how many
2020.
folks you have on your team, and what's your founding team look like?
So we're two co-founders, Jatin and myself. Jatin takes care of the tech side of things, and I take care of all the product and market side of things. But that's not exactly how things are.
Sure.
Everyone does everything. But besides us, we don't really have anyone full time. We're
Mhm.
keeping it lean. So we have like a bunch of interns and freelancers working with us, and we're around 7 people now.
Got it. And have you raised any external funding so far to grow your company?
So we didn't want to in the initial days. We remained bootstrapped until this year,
Mhm.
and we basically didn't raise money as such. Like we joined an accelerator and we got a convertible note from them. And this is an Estonian based and Europe based accelerator called Startup Wise guys. And we did this basically. We were done with our savings. Like we burnt
Yeah.
all our savings, and then we need some more money to get this experiment running.
Yeah.
And that's when we joined this accelerator. Yeah.
All right, Samir. All right, Samir. Thanks for taking time to talk to me. Hope you scale utilize to much greater heights.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. It was a pleasure.